All right, so today what we're doing here on the old Porsche, we are doing the Catless headers. On the collector gasket part, one of the bolts snapped off. That doesn't really matter because we have the new Catless headers have bolts and nuts. I would say, where's my light at here? It's not too hard of a job, particularly, but it's just more awkward than anything, to be totally honest with you. And you can see the setup in here. And also, before we go any further, I see this thing's supposed to have new coil packs and plugs in it. It has a new coil pack in the middle there. And the factory ones are the BRU. And that middle one's, well, I don't know what that is, but it looks totally different. It takes different, they got different bolts stuck in it and everything. And we know on German cars, that doesn't really fly. If you're going to do coil packs, especially this car has 126K on it, you need to do all of them. So I was curious to see also what's the situation with the spark plugs too, right? There's no oil leaks at the valve covers or nothing. Now, this manifold here is totally out, as you can see. It has the EGR port situation going on there. All these came out really good. I just broke all these loose, all the head bolts or the flange gasket bolts loose first. Over here, all these came loose, but that one right there broke off. Sweet, huh? It looks like it's sticking out enough where I get vice grips on it and turn it out. If not, everybody's telling me to weld the nut on it, but I don't have a welder. So there is that. Yeah. So all the rest of them are good to go. So what I did, I went to the local store and I got some hardened bolts, some what they call cap bolts essentially. Get one out of the bag here. They look like this. Same thread. These are M8 by 1.25 thread. Coarse thread. So essentially this is a Toyota bolt, a Honda bolt. You see 1.25 thread on those. BMW is all 1.50 thread. So if you're doing this job, I would say get a set of these no matter what. And you need 1, 2, 4, 6, you need 12 of them all together. We have 11 of them. That's all he had in stock, right? So there is that. I would say, let me let this down. I'm going to show you a couple things. Before we do that, let me see if I can hold the light and the camera all in one hand and point with the other one. The hardest thing was unplugging the oxygen sensors. You have one that runs up and over and goes in right there and plugs in right there where the bell housing meets the engine, right? Can you see that? There we go. The other one goes up and over and plugs in essentially right here and plugs in up there. And it's got to be real careful because it's a real pain in the ass. I had to pull out this guy here, this cover. Unfortunately, the lift was sitting on it, so I had to take a hammer and tap it over a little bit to get the last bolt out. And we have all that solved up. I really need to go on today and order some oil filters for this car. Because at this point, we just don't know. I mean, we don't know, right? Be totally honest, we don't know. And you can see the hardest thing on these manifolds to get to was these flange bolts up here. But eventually what we did, I just put on my big impact, essentially this mess. That got 2 of them out on that side. The other one had to use a 1/4-inch drive ratchet with the 13. They're all 13 mil. And this kind of snaked it in there and got them out. This side's going to be exactly the same way. Might be slightly easier, actually. We also have a little port here for EGR gas port. Yeah, so, I mean, it's not a hard car to work on. It's a very odd car to work on. And you can see up here, this oxygen sensor wire is a lot easier to get to. This one back here. Well, that one back there is a different story. It goes over here. Yeah, it's way up there. It's going to be a real fun one to get to. They're kind of hard to unplug. You could probably essentially take them out on there, what I found out, I have a oxygen sensor socket somewhere. I have to locate it, but I just use a 7/8 box end wrench. Ordinarily, you could fit the box over the plug. That box end will not fit over that plug, so you got to use open end. But the open end is not really strong enough to take it out. So there you are with that. Might be interesting getting those out. It's not that big of a deal. I know all kinds of trick getting oxygen sensors out. What I'm going to do right now, let's go locate the bore scope. Let's go down into that very first exhaust port. Let's look at the front of that catalytic converter, because look to the back. The back looks good, of course, as it would. By the way the car was running, by the efficiency load codes we were having, I bet you that catalytic converter is getting stopped up going down. Actually, if we get the oxygen sensor out, we can look at it right there, probably with no bore scope. Let's try that right now. All right, so all we're gonna do, these things are really stuck in there. You want to heat them up a little bit just to get them hot. You don't want to overdo it. You might ruin that sensor. We're just using our matte gas torch. Another one, I could not get it out until I heated it up. It was starting to strip everything off. I mean, you don't want to go too much. I'm telling you, burning that WD-40 off. And then you might even be able to get, where the hell did it even go? Let's see if we could do it with the open end. The problem is it's hard to get anything in there. Can't deal with that yet. Let me flip that thing over. Let me put the camera down. All right, so let me get the light right, if I even can. Let me show you down in there. See, that's getting all stopped up. It's got particles of white crap stopping up the holes in that catalytic converter. All that stuff's become a problem. Look how white. So how this works, get off there, you heifer. The blue one is the pre-converter. The black cable one is the post. Look how white that is, right? That's not good. Usually it could be burning lean, it could be burning coolant, but in this case, probably because of that catalytic converter, to be totally honest with you. Take it to smell, it don't smell like much of anything. And even the post cat is white, right? Well, on one side it is. So I can just tell by the way it's running. That's probably what was going on. So let's go get the new header. Let's get this side fitted up, I guess. And then, since we only have 11 bolts, we're gonna have to make a decision here what to do with this other side and how to get that bolt out. So let's prep this side to get installed. Okay, so here we are. You can see the difference in them. This kind of comes down into almost a log, and the ports come directly into that same log. It's going to be extremely restrictive. These come down the traditional way and come down to the header. Now we got two block offs for our oxygen sensor. I guess if you don't want to use those, depends on what kind of tune you have. We have no tune, so we got to use them for right now. So we're going to go ahead and swap those over now while it's out of the car. And essentially put that up in there. It should be real damn easy. Now that we have bolts and nuts for the flange, it should be a lot easier to deal with that because we can flip that around for the collector gasket. The next thing is, do we use the factory gasket? Here's the factory gasket. It's super freaking thin. Super, like razor thin, but it didn't leak. Do we use those? We got these cheaper gaskets that the headers come with. And, you know, they're that metal / lead material. We're probably gonna have to use these because they're thicker. These headers are about $400 headers, the best I could tell. But you know, they're not as smooth. Well, somebody's taken something and smoothed them out. They don't look too bad. I mean, I don't know. They're not as smooth as what one would hopefully prefer, but they're not bad. They have a really thick flange on them. They shouldn't leak. I guess we'll go ahead and use the collectors or the gaskets that came with them. So let's go ahead and assemble that now. Okay, so the pre-converter O2 sensor is installed. Now how this works, if you're not running converters, we have converters. I believe that's a converter right there, a secondary. But the car is not going to be okay with that just gone. It's going to throw efficiency high. So this is a sensor, or essentially a spacer that fools the car into thinking there's a converter there. How it works, the O2 sensor screws in this side, has a smaller restrictive hole, which sometimes you got to drill that out because it's too restrictive. And that tells the car, hey, everything's okay. No need to panic. Now, this is a 90-degree spacer. We don't really need that on this car. This came with the box of stuff. Here's the problem. There's only one of these. There's not two of them. There's supposed to be two of them. So I think what we're going to do, while we got this header off, we'll go ahead and install this on there. I'm not sure what the hell. So he's got, what's even going on here? You have to screw this off. I don't know why that's even there. Then this screws into the pipe, right? That male fitting screws into that hole right here, essentially. Screws into there, and then our O2 sensor screws into there. I'm not sure why it has extra spacer on it, but that doesn't do us any good here. Now, it's only on the second sensor behind the cat you got to do this on. You don't have to do it on the front one, on the blue wire. So if you're doing this job, it doesn't matter if it's on a Porsche or what it's on. If you're running Catless exhaust, you got to do this. Now, you also seen this on the older cars like the E39s on the BMW channel. We had a tune that deleted all that. We had a European 1 tune. That's when those cars were new in Europe. They didn't have catalytic converters. And you can flash those to that. This car doesn't have that tune. So we're going to do a tune that might delete this altogether. I don't know. I don't know what they make for it. I was looking at tunes last night, and there's some stuff. There's a tuner for like $600 that raised to 35 horsepower. I forgot who made it. Vivid, I think, is who making that. But you could flash the tune on or off real easy with a little handheld job. So if you want to go back to stock, you can real easy. Might look at something like that. I highly doubt that is going to delete the oxygen sensors. And in fact, the BMW ones are so nice because that deleted the secondary air pump, deleted all 4 oxygen sensors. You could run whatever you want in that car. And it made it really snappy and real responsive too. So I don't know. Let's get this thing fingered up in place and we'll come back. Here's where we're at. We're bolted in here except we're a couple bolts short. So I got 5, I had 5 of these shorter bolts that we got, right? Then he had a little bit longer ones, is all he had. And look, they're a little about a 1/4 inch longer, but they're too long. These shorter ones are great. They're perfectly fine. The one's sticking up a little bit. I still don't have enough. I think I'm 1 short from doing the other side. I really think we put these old bolts back in. Where are they even at? I really think we put these old bolts back in, they're going to break off. I really, truly believe that. If they don't break off when we put them in, if some poor bastard ever has to go back in here and do this job again or take these off again, they'll 100% break off then. It's just not good practice. I can't find any ARP stuff that'll get here anytime in the near future whatsoever. And I think what I'm going to do is go and run to Lowe's, or there's 3 or 4 stores in the town south of us that has bolts, right? If we hop in the M5, go down there or something, E90 or something, I think we could find exactly what we need. And I think finding exactly what we need right now is the way to do it instead of trying to half-ass it. Then I could put like a nut on the head of that and maybe take up the slack. And then if it doesn't seat in all the way, then it's going to leak. If it's still a little too long, you may not know. On and on and on and on. So I'm going to take one of these, take the old bolt and one of these short ones with me and make sure that we can sort out exactly what we need. But that's going to do it as far as that goes. And it looks like the header meshes up pretty good. You can move this upper pipe You know, we got some movement in there. We could easily get the gasket and the bolts in there. No problem at all. And there's our oxygen sensor spacer. Also, while we're gone, we'll get the other spacer for the other O2 sensor. And we should be able to totally complete this. And also, I'm going to grab what I'm out here too, is the transmission filter, so we can finally sort that out 110%. Okay, so it's a few hours later. I'll turn the old light on here. There we go. We have, geez, what we have here is the rest of the bolts. We got the rest of the bolts. Just threw them up there. And what these headers came with was bolts and nuts for the collector gasket, for the 3 bolts on each side for this gasket right here, right? Those bolts are too big to fit through the holes in the collector. Sweet, huh? So, yeah. So we have that. What I'm going to do, but we did get all the bolts, like I said, for the flange. All these are in. They're not tight yet. They're just finger tight. Snugged up a little bit. And I guess what we're going to go ahead and do is do the other side over here. This is just all loose. And we'll have to pull this wheel over here off and do that. I think what we're going to do, I have like regular bolts, right? Here's the ones that came with it. Just way too big. I have like regular bolts. I could put bolts and nuts in those collector flanges. If I do that, next time I go to take those off, if there is the next time, they're all going to break. They're going to be a big mess. So tonight, it's already late. I'm going to go ahead and change the other side header. I'm just going to wait tomorrow morning whenever I get up, run to the local store, has a whole bolt assortment, and try to get some stainless steel bolts and nuts and washers for them. I think that's going to be the best way. You know, like I said, worst case, they just break off when you go take them off. You put the wrong ones in. But, well, worst case would be they don't break off. They strip out and you can't get them off. But, you know, these are not stainless steel at all either. These are like a grade 3 bolts. So these will be all rusty and nasty looking from the heat within days after putting those in. So yeah, that's the situation. Now these back brakes, I'm not sure what's going on with this back brake. Something. I've driven this car quite a bit. It still has not rubbed all the stuff, all the rust off of it. So I'm not sure, but the brake pads are good. Oh, is this one or the other one? Yeah, on the back of here, if you can see that or not, it's like the brake pads are filling up the holes on the drilled and soldered rotors. Same over here too. See what I mean? I'm not sure what in the hell is going on with that. But that's not going to cool very good. And I see those back rotors have a, well, not really. I thought they had a good lip on, but they don't really at all. No, it's like the brake pads are just so damn soft, they're caking up. So we'll change all of that. Like none of that. We don't want any of that. That definitely means brake dust on the wheels, all that crap. We're not into none of that. And I'm going to go in tonight. Like I said, look at the coil packs. We'll probably order a whole set of coil packs and a whole set of new plugs for it. Just because I want to put the plugs, the NGKs in it that I want to put in it. I have no idea what's in here now. You know, hard telling. And then, of course, the oil change. Okay. So, we finally got the headers put on. It wasn't exactly a good time. I would not call that a good time, right? Things that are a good time, that would rank pretty much 0. So, everything's assembled. I don't have it up in the air this minute. We're going to start it up, raise it up in there, and check for leaks. Sound pretty leaky. Not leaking there. Not leaking there. Not leaking there. We only have maybe one leak at this collector over here. So we let them heat cycle once. I retorqued everything, retightened everything. They're heating up again. Let them heat up all the way, and then we'll retorque them again. I got a little bit out of this collector gasket. It sounds like that's the only thing that maybe have the tiniest little leak in it. It just sounds the same no matter what. I'm not sure there even is a leak. I don't know. I mean, that's the bad part with headers. You never know what you're going to get, right? But everything's in, everything's done. Holy crap, look at the tools though. And all we got to do is put a couple shields back on and put the wheels back on, and that's it. But we also have to finish the transmission flush and filter. There is one thing about this car. Now it does rev a lot cleaner. We got our shovel out here. A lot more throttle response. You could tell before with those converters on it, there was something holding it back, and I could look at just the right angle down in the oxygen sensor hole, and I could see broken pieces of converter down in that hole. You can see here, no check engine light with those adapters on the O2 sensors either. And just a refresher, those do go on the rear two O2 sensors and not on the front two.